Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Priya, I love to knit, and this is where I talk all things knitting and fiber arts. Today I'm filming the second episode to my knitting podcast. It is February 1st today, and so it's been about a month since I filmed my last episode, and since then there's been quite a few developments in my knitting world, as well as the real world, but we're not talking about that today. So yeah, let's just get into it. I have 3 finished objects, one of them being a garment and 2 of them being small accessories. And the first one I'm going to talk about is what I'm wearing, which is the tulip loop sweater roll neck by Otherloops. This sweater I talked about in my last podcast as a whip, and I don't really have much else to add besides what I've already talked about. It's just basically an all over textured cabled sweater. You can see that there's these big bands of these tulip like cables right here in the back. I'll just show the back real quick if you can see that. I don't know. In the back has a sort of different pattern to it. I can either insert a picture of the sample, or I don't know if I can get a picture of my own back, but I'll insert that in, which is a really cool detail with the pattern. And it was like kind of a joy to knit. This was my second all over textured / cabled pattern. And I think that I'm obsessed with the cables now. I will admit, as I was knitting it, once I got past a certain number of repeats on the body, I was kind of over it. But I love the finished object so much that I am ready to have more garments like this in my wardrobe. Let me just see if I can show you a full view of the fit and everything. I knit the size small, which is my recommended size. I finished this about 2 weeks ago and I've already worn it, I think like 8 out of 14 days. It is so beautiful. Every time I look at it, I'm like, I can't believe I made this with my own hands. And I would love to have this in more colors, but I just don't see the point in knitting the same pattern like this over and over again in different colors. But I think this, and I think I saw someone knitting this in the ice blue colorway of Knitting for Olive, and that's just I think the sample was knit in that color actually. But I think that, yeah, that color is just gorgeous. Well, that being said, I did knit this in Knitting for Olive heavy merino and soft silk mohair in the colorway pea shoots. I really enjoy this. I've used this combination quite a few times, and I find that it holds up pretty well in terms of wear, and just in general, I really appreciate Knitting for Olive's ethos in having an ethical supply chain and being cruelty free to the animals that are involved in producing the wool. So I really like supporting them. It is a little bit pricey, but here in the US, I think that there isn't a large variety of 100% natural fiber yarn available to us at a cheap price. I think it's all kind of within a standard range. Knitting for Olive is pretty mid-range in terms of price in the US. So yeah, I really enjoy it. You can see the lighting's changing a little bit. The sun's going in and out of clouds, but I think this color is showing up a little bit more muted on camera than it is in real life. It's a little bit brighter in real life. It's already starting to pale a little bit because I've worn it so many times. But yeah, it's gorgeous. I don't know. I need to think if I have anything else to say about this sweater, but I don't. And my cat decided to join me. But yeah, I mean, this has kind of kickstarted a love for cables in textured and a desire to knit more and more of that. I mean, it is February now, so I guess eventually in the next few months I'm going to switch over to summer knitting, but and I feel as though cables don't really fit in that, but I'm really excited to cast on another cable knit at some point this year. Maybe even now, even though I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense or if I'm just rambling. And my cat is here and she's distracting me with her cuteness. That's a sweater. I think aside from the things I mentioned in my first knitting podcast, I didn't really have any issues with this pattern. And like I mentioned before, the body was, after a while, I was like, okay, I need to get this done. But the sleeves went around pretty quick. And there is German short row. There are German short rows to shape the back, the front, and I think the sleeve caps. And I think it fits very well. It's very oversized, which I prefer on a garment. On any garment, actually. I was going to say on a garment like this, but I think I prefer to wear oversized knits in general. And yeah, as I've said, I'm very, very happy with the outcome. There's also, actually I did have issues, but it wasn't a pattern problem. It was my own doing, but you can see that there's this constant line of knit stitches at the back of the at the join of the sleeve, and the decreases are done here. There were some times where I just kept on knitting and forgot to do a decrease, so I'd have to ladder down and do the decrease. I don't remember if it was like a knit two. It was I do remember what it was, but I'm not going to say what it is. But I forgot to do the decrease. I had to ladder it down. And there are points in this kind of continuous stitch where it's, you can tell that I laddered down. And I did that on both sleeves actually, but I think it did get better with blocking. I think that it was really, really bad before I blocked it, but I think it looks fine now. I think that there is also a small mistake on the back, but I can't see that, so who cares? But yeah, that's all I have to say about this sweater. So moving on to my other finished objects. So I didn't talk about either of these finished objects in my previous podcast episode. I kind of cast them on spontaneously because I was in the mood for some fun color work and trying out new skills. So in my last podcast episode, I mentioned the porcelain yoke sweater and how that would be my first color work project, but I lied. This is now my first color work project. I was just so excited to try out this new skill, and I did not want to start a whole new garment, so I decided to cast this headband on, and this is it's a free pattern on Ravelry called the Norwegian Rose headband, I believe. I'm linking everything I'm talking about in the description box below, so you can find it there. High Fiber Knits, Emily of High Fiber Knits talked about this in one of her previous episodes, and she made one of these herself in, I think, like a brown, green, and like hot pink color way. Yeah. But so I actually kind of did the same thing with her. This is a free knitting pattern, so I'm just going to talk about the details. This is meant for a fingering weight gauge knit on 3mm needles, but I wanted to use this DK weight yarn that I had. So I, like Emily, she also did this at a DK gauge or DK weight. I, like her, sized up to 3.5mm, and this colorwork chart has, if you're knitting it at a fingering weight gauge, you're supposed to repeat this chart 5 times, but what she and I decided to do was to cut it down to 4 pattern repeats. And in her podcast episode where she talked about this headband, she did note that it came out a bit snug for her liking. So I just decided to add an extra knit stitch in between each of the pattern repeats to add a little bit more space. That being said, I don't know, I think this could use more space. Like I have a pretty small head, I think, but I still find that this is pretty snug and kind of difficult to put on and take off, especially if I'm like wearing my glasses. I have to take my glasses off and put this on and then put my glasses back on, or like earrings and stuff can be kind of difficult with this. But I think it is super functional. If I want to wear my hair up when I go outside and I don't, like, my ears will get cold, but I can't wear a hat because my hair is up, I'll wear this. But yeah, so if you are interested in knitting this, I would suggest, knitting this at a DK weight gauge, I would suggest maybe adding 2 knit stitches between each pattern repeat, like bringing it down to 4 like we did, but adding extra knit stitches between the repeats. But yeah, another thing about the pattern is that they have measurements written both in centimeters and inches. I, from the US, was looking, I like to actually reference centimeters, but I from the US, so I'm like used to looking at inches as well. I did notice that the inches measurements just weren't equal to the centimeters measurements. I don't know the exact details, but it was like, for example, they said like knit for 3 centimeters and then in parentheses 1 inch, which like isn't, like 2.5 centimeters is 1 inch. So it's like, it was something kind of similar to that. So I would suggest also referencing the centimeters instead of the inches if you want to use that pattern, because I don't think the inches are accurate. But yeah, also there's this really cute scalloped edge detail that's done using like yarn overs knit 2 togethers at both the bottom and the top, which is a really cool thing that I've never done before. So I really like how that looks. I think it only obviously works if you fold it over, because otherwise it'll just look like eyelets. And I wish I could show you my floats, because I was so amazed every time I looked at them, but again, this is folded over, so this is just rib stitches, 2x2 rib. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the pattern itself. The colorwork chart was super simple. Like I mentioned, this is my first colorwork pattern, so I found it really easy to follow. I think it'd be great as a first colorwork project, and it's just really beautiful. Like, I think it's just really fun to look at, to wear. Going into the yarn, I used Sandnes Garn Double Sunday for both the contrast and the main color. If you watched my previous episode, you might notice that the main color, this really dark blue that I used, is the same yarn that I used for my Olga jacket that I talked briefly about in that video, or maybe not briefly, but I talked about. This is the Sandnes Garn and petiteknit colorway, Sailor in the Dark, which I used for this. I still have more of it, so maybe maybe I'll knit a matching pair of oh my gosh. Maybe I'll knit a matching pair of mittens, which I think will be really cute. I know people are really into the colorwork mittens this year, but I have plans to like knit a whole bunch of other stuff, so I don't know if I'm gonna get around to that. And the contrast color, this like bright orangey red color, is also, I believe, a petiteknit and Sandnes Garn colorway in Double Sunday. I think this one is that orange feeling. I think it's that orange feeling, which is, I think these colors look really great together. I think it's very me. And I actually have a whole hat knit out of this color, but thinking about unraveling that hat, I also talked about this hat in my last episode, and that it's my Ozo hat that I feel is a bit too tight on my head. So I might unravel that and make more winter accessories if I have time before winter's over, which I'm not sure if I will. But yeah, I really like this. I would recommend it with those caveats I mentioned before. And it was such a great first colorwork pattern. I finished it in like 3 days. Like, I was obsessed with this. And I am excited to do more color work, like the porcelain yoke sweater. I will talk about this when I get to my whips, but a lot of those works in progress that I talked about in my last episode are kind of on ice right now, because I just had other things come up that I wanted to do more, and test knits and stuff that I need to prioritize. So yes, this is the Norwegian rose headband. And my final finished object is this hat. I'm gonna just put it on. Right. This is the Escher beanie by Rose Knitwear, or Escher beanie by Rose Knitwear. If you watched my last video, not my last podcast episode, but I did talk about how I'm very interested in this brown and blue color combination right now. And after I made that video, I was like, I need to cast this on immediately, because I actually reorganized all my yarns. I found the scrap yarn that's like this light blue color, and this brown yarn is, I'm actually knitting a garment in it currently, which I'll talk about in my whips. But this brown yarn is Blue Sky Fibers woolstock worsted. Very beautiful. I think it's in the color dark chocolate. It's very beautiful, very soft. I'm a huge fan of this yarn now, but yeah, before I get into the yarn too much, this pattern, oh gosh, my hair. This pattern is written for a worsted or aran weight gauge, I believe. You can see where, I'm pretty sure, actually no, I think that, oh yeah, this is where I joined in the round. You can see that it's such a mess right here, but yeah, this is knit on 8mm needles. This is a super lightweight beanie. Like, it's not going to keep you very warm unless you knit with aran weight yarn perhaps, or maybe size down, but I don't know if I would do that given my issues. Size down on needles, I mean, but I don't know if I would do that given my issues with things being too tight on my head. Like, this fits my head very well, so I like that. And yeah, it's just this beautiful rib colorwork pattern using slip stitches and just alternating colors for ribbing. It's really, really fun to do, and I want to show the inside is so cool as well. I would love, like, I need to see if Rose Knitwear also has patterns with this kind of being, I don't know, I think this is really cool looking as well, like maybe even cooler looking to me than this. But yeah, I really love this. I've been wearing it a lot. Again, I would recommend the pattern. It comes in 2 sizes. And I knit the smaller size, I think. Yeah, I think it's basically like a women's head and a man's head. So I knit the smaller size, which I would think is like the women's head size. And like I mentioned, I have a small head. And I think it fits very well. I would love to knit this again. Like, I would definitely knit this again and hopefully do a better job hiding my join, but I just wear this toward the back, and like I said, if I can't see it, who cares? In terms of yarn, like I mentioned, for the brown, I use Blue Sky Fibers woolstock worsted. This is if you're in the US and you're interested from buying from more US based companies, Blue Sky Fibers is a US based company. This yarn is awesome. I'll talk about the garment later, but I'm having such a good time knitting with this. It's just such a gorgeous yarn, and I think a lot of people have mentioned it, have referred to it as a workhorse yarn, which I would definitely agree with. And you can buy this in 50 gram and 250 gram skeins. So if you're interested in knitting a full-size garment, I think this is in a worsted weight gauge. I think this is a great yarn to use. I also think it's available in a fingering weight gauge as well. So love this. I'm getting out of breath because I'm like talking so much. But for the light blue, I actually use another US based yarn, and that is Crane by Quince & Co., which is, actually I think the yarn, the wool in the mohair itself is from South Africa, but the company is based in the US. And it's a wool and mohair blend. It is super soft, and I have used this yarn tons of times. It's one of my favorite yarns actually, but it is single ply, and because it's so soft, it just gets very, very pilly, and it gets pretty prone to felting. But I think for use in a project like this, it's so good. And it's so, despite this being a really lightweight hat, the wool and mohair combination make it very warm and cozy. I think the colorway is called Round Rock. It's just like a really light blue, and it's great. I love it. I'm gonna put it on again. Just so cute. I'm very, very happy with it, and I would love to. This was a really quick pattern to knit up as well, so I would really, really love to knit more of these. I think I'm more likely to knit another one of these hats before I start knitting a pair of colorwork mittens. So yeah. Okay, so moving on to my works in progress. I have quite a few, and like I mentioned before, not a lot of these, but a good number of these are new because some of the things I mentioned last time are put on ice, and I just had other priorities come up. To be honest, some of the patterns, like the step-by-step sweater that I was going to do in Line Cloud, just didn't appeal to me at this moment because I just don't feel like unraveling and separating mohair and wool at the moment. And then the socks I'm working on for my boyfriend, those are also on ice right now, but he and I are going on a trip together at the end of this month, and I figured I could bring that project as my traveling whip. And since I'll be with him the entire time, it'll be super easy to just have him try it on and just see how it's going and get those done while I'm on that trip. So yeah, that's why a lot of these projects will be kind of new to you. But this first one I'm talking about, is not a new project. I talked about this in my last episode. This is my modified Solene cardigan by moreca. And it just looks like a black blob right now. But as you can see, I have the entire actual sweater done. And now I am currently working on the double knit ties that I'm going to add on. So this is just one of them. The cardigan that I'd like to recreate actually has 4 of these ties, but I'm thinking of just making 2 and just having one closure, because I don't know if it will really add anything to add to. I mean, I guess we'll see. I'll have 1 and then I'll add a set of 2 later. But yeah, I think last time I talked about this, I didn't have the sleeves. So yeah, I finished the sleeves. The sleeves are very modified, I think, relative to the pattern as well. I didn't mention this in my last episode, but I am knitting off gauge. Like, I basically just referenced the pattern for, you know, doing the shaping for the neckline and the sleeve caps and everything, but in terms of recreating the actual pattern, I don't think I'm doing a great job with that. I think, so the pattern, I think I'm using the same weight of yarn, but the pattern is knit using 4.5 millimeter needles, and I used 5 for this, for the body. And I basically just sized up 0.5 millimeter for everything, like the ribbing and the button band and everything like that. So yeah, this is like heavily modified. The sleeves, like I said, because I'm knitting off gauge, my stitch gauge actually I think might have been on gauge, but my row gauge was really, really off. So I basically did less rounds than what was mentioned in the pattern. Therefore, I did less decreases when it got to the length that I wanted it to be. And then at that point, I was like, I still had too many stitches on my needle for it to like look okay. So I just rapidly decreased and kind of made it a little bit of a balloon sleeve, which I don't mind. I think it'll look fine. This pattern has a lot of short row shaping for the sleeve cap. I don't know if you can really tell, but yeah, these are all short rows, which I kind of really liked. I really like how this looks. I think it looks kind of like a set-in sleeve, but it's not. It's a drop shoulder sleeve. But yeah, like I mentioned in my previous podcast episode, I am knitting this using Cascade 220 worsted in the colorway Jet, held together with the strand of isager mohair in the black colorway. And I really, really love this yarn combination. It's just so soft and luxurious. And I will say that this is white cat fur tested. My cat loves sleeping on my knits, and usually I've had issues with her fur getting stuck in the yarn and just like looking awful. But I mean, obviously there is a little bit of cat fur here and there, but this is just not a sticky yarn at all when it comes. Oh, well, yeah. I think I've seen it be a lot worse, okay? So, I think that this is a really great combination. I'm really happy with it. I would love to get this done before that trip that I mentioned that I'm taking, because I am going to a place that's not quite a bit, but it's a bit warmer than here. So I'll be wearing lots of like springy garments, and I think this will be a nice thing to bring that's just very neutral and easy to throw on in case it gets cold at night or in the morning. So I would love to have this done by then, but we'll see if I do. And another one of the modifications is that I'm doing these double knit ties instead of I-cord ties like the pattern calls for. So I'm going to knit at least 2 of these, and I think after I'm done filming, I'm actually going to block the body and then continue working on these, block these separately, and then sew them on, and hopefully I'll be good to go. I apologize that the lighting has been crazy. It's like kind of cloudy, kind of sunny here, so the sun's coming in and out. So my next work in progress is one that I did not talk about at all in my last episode, and that is because it is a test knit. I am test knitting the Sookie cardigan by Woozy by Celine, which is a really simple, really nice drop shoulder cardigan with folded over stockinette detailing around the collar. I applied for this test knit because I had this yarn in my stash, and Celine had knitted her sample for this cardigan in a very, very similar yarn, and I did not know what to do with the yarn in my stash, and Then I saw her cardigan. I was like, you know what? This would be really cute. I have mentioned before that I'm not a fan of pink. And this, I think, is changing my mind. I love this pink. I don't know if it really will look that good on me, but it is bringing me so much joy to knit with this color. Like, I am now such a pink fan. And I just, like, there's this, like, athleisure athletic clothing brand called Beyond Yoga that has this pink, like, yoga slash Pilates slash like low impact workout color. Wait, a low impact workout set in this pink color that is so cute, and I want it so bad, but I don't even do those low impact workouts. Like, I run and I try to lift. I'm not lifting right now, but I try to. And so I have no use for it, but I want it because I'm like, it's pink and I want it. Sorry for that tangent, but yeah, I love pink, and I love this pink. So this is isager aran tweed in the colorway Rose, which is, again, so beautiful. I think rose is a funny name for this because I feel like I see this color and I don't really think of roses. I think of strawberry ice cream. Like, it literally just looks like a strawberry ice cream with little chunks of like white and other pinks here and there. It's just so beautiful. And something that I really like when I've been knitting with this yarn is just seeing the different tweedy bits of like random colors. Like, there's a purple here too. I'm like, every time I knit, I'm like, oh, is there another purple one coming? Is there another one coming? But like, there hasn't been that many. There's been a few here and there. Like, I don't know if you can really see it, but yeah, I love this yarn. I love this pattern so far. It's like been super simple and straightforward, and there's been minimal edits made to it. Like, it was very well written from the jump. I don't want to give away too much. This is not released yet. It is knit at an Aran weight gauge on 5mm needles. I'm happy that I met gauge with this yarn because I'm just like, I'm really excited to have this. Like, I am hoping, I mean, I have 2 weeks. I'm hoping to have this done for Valentine's Day because I think just having like this pink cardigan would be so cute. But we'll see. We'll see. I have a lot of other whips to get through, as you can tell. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Like I said, I don't want to give away too much of the pattern, like give away too much of anything since it's not released. And I'm worried that some of the things that I say might not be like accurate or relevant anymore once the pattern's actually finalized and released. Another thing I forgot to mention is a crew neck cardigan, which have been very, very popular. And honestly, my preference for cardigan neck shape is the crew neck versus like a V-neck. So very excited to have this. This yarn is just so awesome. It is very lightweight. Maybe that's because I don't have the sleeves on yet, but this is just such a lightweight yarn, so like airy. And it is a very woolly yarn. Like, if you are sensitive to anything, like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like rustic, and I think once it blocks, it's gonna get like a lot softer, but I wouldn't recommend this to you if you are sensitive at all to wool. I have two things that are kind of half finished objects, half whips. The first one is the sock, which looks so tiny, but it's just a ribbed vanilla sock. I had a skein, as I said, I organized my yarn, and I had a skein of this Noro Silk Garden Sock Solo just sitting around. And what's a better thing to do with 100 gram skein of sock yarn than to make a pair of socks? So right now I have half a pair. It's just 2x2 rib and then stockinette on the bottom of the foot. I knit it using a heel flap and gusset, like heel structure. I it is a bit snug, but I think with the few socks I've knit so far, I've had an issue with them being a little too loose. So I'm pretty happy with how it fits me right now. I'm about a size 8 in shoes, and I knit this, I think this is closer to like a sport weight gauge. So I knit this on 3mm needles with 44 stitches, and this is one of my socks, and I hope to get another one done. And the next half thing that I have done is this mitten. This is the Static Mitten by Rose Knitwear. I actually knit this a year ago, but I would like to finish this pair this week. So I actually have my own pair of these mittens that I knit using the Quince & Co. crane. And I love those mittens so much. And once I finished those mittens, one of my friends was like, I love these mittens so much. And her birthday is this Friday. And when I knit this year ago, her birthday was coming up. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'll knit her a pair of mittens for her birthday. And I knit this. And I was like, I cannot knit another one of these right now. Like, I just knit 3 of these in a row, and I do not want to knit another one. So I never did it, and her birthday's coming around again. So I'm going to do it this time. I knit this with like some random yarn that I had. The like purpley blue one is a Malabrigo yarn, and this white one, I literally have no idea what it is. Like, it's just yarn that I bought when I first started knitting and just got rid of the ball bands and don't remember it, but I did buy it at Knitty City on the Upper West Side. So if I ever go, if I like the socks that I made for my mom, if I ever go back there, maybe they still have them. But I bought this yarn a really long time ago and got rid of the ball bands. And this is, I think I might have knit off gauge because it is pretty loose on me, and despite me having a small head, I think I have pretty large hands for my size. So I'm just hoping that my friend's hands are even larger, so they fit fine. The thumb is great, it's just there's a lot of space here. But yeah, these mittens are really fun. I would also recommend these. I just was like, after knitting 3 of these, like 3 individual mittens, I was like, I don't want to knit another one. But my plan is to probably cast these on today if I'm hoping to get them done by Friday. Today's Saturday, so next Friday I'm gonna have a whole set of these so I can give these to my friend for her birthday. And my last 2 whips, which, yeah, I know I have a lot of whips going on right now, are also new whips because I get bored easily and need to cast on something new. I'll talk about this one first since I already talked about the yarn. This, oh my gosh, this is such a mess. So my next work in progress looks like such a mess right now, but it is the Amy sweater by petiteknit. As you can see, I just split. This is a raglan sweater, so I just split it, separated the sleeves, and now I'm knitting the body. I'm using an unraveled swatch to hold both the sleeves, so that's why this is so difficult to hold. But this is going to be a nice oversized raglan sweater with a very nice turtleneck and 2x2 ribbing. And a few people might have talked about this already before because this has been a pretty popular pattern, but this construction is really interesting because you actually cast on and knit the back flat before you cast on the rest of the raglan stitches. No, I did not explain that well. You actually cast on and knit the back flat while doing raglan increases and then add on the front, which helps it to have this kind of, lift in the back, which is really interesting. I've never done anything like that before, so I like it, and we'll see if it fits any better. But yes, I'm knitting this using Blue Sky Fibers woolstock worsted, which I mentioned before, and the color dark chocolate. And yeah, I'm really loving this yarn. One thing I like about it is that you can tell that it is 2-ply, which I'm not necessarily a fan of, but once it gets knit up, you can, like, it just looks so smooth and like just beautiful. Like I can't even explain it. Like, it's just so smooth. It's such a pleasant knitting experience. It's so soft, and I love this yarn, and I am very excited. In my knitting inspiration video, I did talk about how I'm really liking dark chocolate or chocolate brown, as many other people are this year, and I'm looking forward to having a garment. I feel like this will look really great with some pants that I have, and I just have so many whips going on. I'm like, we'll see when I get this done, but I am excited to have this in my wardrobe. And I think I've gotten past like the major shaping and you know, big parts of this pattern. It's just kind of body island from here on out, and then sleeve island and collar island. So I think this will be a pretty simple and straightforward pattern. But that being said, I did learn a very interesting new construction technique when I first started out. So yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I am excited to have it. Final whip is another petiteknit pattern. I think one of my goals for this year is to knit from other designers rather than petiteknit, which is kind of like, which I think I'm on a pretty good start with. It's kind of hard because I do want to, I just know petiteknit's writing style, and I know that it's very easy to follow and straightforward. So I think it's always a gamble when I'm buying a pattern from someone I've never knit with before, because I'm like, am I going to spend money on this pattern that like I might not even understand at all? But, you know, that's where Ravelry comes in to help you out. I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense, but anyway, yes, this is the beginnings of an Esther sweater by petiteknit. As you can see, I've done very little. I just like, after finishing this sweater, I was like, I want something textured so bad, and I was going to knit the Sibylla sweater by Cookie the Knitter, and I tried knitting a gauge swatch using this yarn because that's what I had, and I just couldn't meet gauge, and I knew that this sweater is the same gauge as this, so I was like, I'll just cast on this sweater. And I do want to knit the Sibylla sweater at some point in the future, or is it Sibylla? I'm just gonna say Sibylla. I do plan to knit that at some point in the future when I can find a yarn combination that works for gauge, but like I haven't found anything yet. But yeah, so I cast on the Esther sweater instead, which is a all over textured sweater, and the texture is created just using knits and purls. It has a really cool diamond pattern on it, and I gotta show my cat when I'm done filming, but I'm sure if you're in the knitting space you've seen this already. So it's like, you know, like I said, petiteknit, she owns the online knitting space, it seems. So but I've never done a textured pattern like this, so it's been really interesting. It is kind of like more of a mind-on pattern than some of the other patterns that I'm working on right now, and therefore I don't really have the energy to knit on this unless it's the weekend, because after work on the weekdays I just kind of want to unwind and watch TV and like not think about what I'm knitting while I'm watching TV. So This might be more of a longer term whip, but I am really excited about it, mostly because of the yarn combination. So this is Sandnes Garn Pure Gynt in the Marzipan Tutti Frutti colorway. The Marzipan Tweed Tutti Frutti colorway. This is Pure Gynt Tweed in the Marzipan Tutti Frutti colorway, which is this like nice beige color with little bits of blue and yellow and red and green. Really, really pretty. And I'd actually bought a sweater quantity of this a while ago to knit the Moby sweater, which was another option instead of knitting the Esther sweater. But I have heard some stuff about the sizing with the Moby sweater, and that it can be kind of tight, which, as I mentioned earlier, I prefer things to be a bit boxy and oversized. And I just think this will be a little bit different with the knit and purl texture pattern. And I'm also holding this with Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the colorway Oat. I just randomly had a bunch of this in my stash. I think once I was, a while ago, I placed an order at Knitting for Olive, and I was like, let me just buy this because I think this will just be nice to have if I ever need it, which, you know, worked great. And I am really loving this combination. Like, I think I'm a Pure Gynt girly. I have only knit with tin Pure Gynt in my sweater number 15 I mentioned earlier, but I loved it. And I think I'm going to love the regular Pure Gynt as well. So, oh, my cat is so cute. This was my entire view while I was filming just now. But yeah, I am loving this. I'm loving this with the mohair, and I'm excited to have this. I kind of wish that the tweedy bits were a bit more, like, I feel like they're a bit more obvious in the skein itself than when it's knit up, at least in this pattern, or at least with this mohair. I kind of wish it was a bit more, they stuck out a bit more, but we'll see. Maybe it'll look different with the full garment. That's all I had to talk about today. I don't really think it's necessary to talk about future plans because I have so many like early stage whips right now that just thinking about what I'm doing next is just not going to be helpful, because also, like, given the difference between my previous episode and this episode in terms of what I'm doing, it just, I don't know if that's working for me at this moment. And I don't really have any acquisitions to talk about, but yeah, that is all. And thank you for joining me, and thank you so much for being here, for subscribing, for commenting, for liking. I really enjoyed reading everyone's comments last time. Everyone's positive comments last time. And it's just been really great to connect with you all. I would love to hear your thoughts on anything that I'm knitting, or anything just like knitting related in general, what you're working on and what you've been really excited about recently. So yeah, just let me know in the comments, and can't wait to talk to you soon. Bye.